Welcome back to another Thrive After Stroke support group. Thank you all for being here. Today, I'm really excited to introduce our speaker, Teresa Davis. Teresa was actually a guest speaker with Thrive After Stroke maybe about 2 years ago. And I just thought her talk was so well received, and it was definitely time for her to come back and have another conversation with all of us. So all that to say, Teresa, the floor is yours. You can take it away.
Thank you. Really honored to be here and to be invited into this group. It's been a long journey, and when I met Ella, oh my gosh, 4 years ago, I'm gonna think that was through was it five? Through Modus Nova, right? Um, it was so inspiring. So I kind of have a couple different facets in my life that have been impacted. One, I am a mental health professional, and I was very fortunate to have a lot of training in neurobiology and kind of understanding brain trauma, basically because I worked a lot with PTSD. I worked with veterans at one point, and that just became a huge area of interest for me. Not knowing how useful that information was going to be when 6 years ago, my spouse, who was then 59 years old, had a major stroke that took out the entire left side of his brain. And the prognosis from the doctors was basically to put him in a wheelchair, stick him in, a nursing home and forget about it. And I didn't believe in that. I do believe that everybody has a capacity to heal, and it depends on what our motivation is and what the resources are that we're given. And at that time, he literally could not move. It was not certain whether he would be able to swallow or not. Fortunately, he was. He passed swallowing tests with flying colors. So we didn't have to make the feeding tube decision, but it was that severe. Um, and I had to fight with the staff at the hospital. They weren't going to put him in physical therapy, and I said, no, that's not an option. He needs PT, he needs OT, he needs to become active. And I was very fortunate to find a local hospital that was willing to take him that had an amazing program. So he was transferred there within 2 weeks after the stroke. And, throughout the experience, it's been kind of that people tend to look at the more fatalistic side of when you've lost so much. And even in the hospital immediately afterwards, my kind of little neuro geek brain was going, and I'm like, okay, what are the essential oils that could help with cellular repair and brain repair? So I got a diffuser and I put a diffuser in his room, and we were running EOs. I looked up brainwave frequencies and put a speaker in his room and was, playing constantly kind of background music that paired to brain healing. We set up the room. It was actually this time last year. What is today, the 10th? I think this would have been close to the day that he transferred from the hospital he was in into the rehab, actually. And I had really worked just to make his hospital room look like a bedroom. And I do feel like all of these things, if nothing else, really helped my spirit, but I do think they helped him initially in his healing journey. Um, so it's been a long road. He made way more progress than was ever anticipated for him to make. But he did reach a point about 4 years in where he basically said he did not want to do any more therapies. He had been doing physical therapy, occupational, water therapy, and I had to respect his choice. I mean, we talked about it over a period of time, and it was decided that the next steps would need to be to not be able to stay in a caregiver role if his health was going to be declining. Because at the time of the stroke, he was also post cardiac failure, so a lot of complications. But I do feel like for that 5 years, he had a quality of life that, was a lot better than what anyone anticipated he would have, and a lot of opportunities. And I met a lot of amazing people in this journey that really transformed me. It transformed me as a clinician, as a person, you know. And so it's been, something you can never plan on. And I try so hard to really empathize and think what it is like to be in those shoes of losing so many of the abilities that we take for granted every day, and the work that it does take just to move a leg or an arm, to pick up a glass and to drink. All these things we never think about, or speech. And it's so the resources out there are one of those things that have interested me. And so I was sharing a little with Ella and Julie, before everyone came on, a couple of the resources like that I was very fortunate to have fallen into my lap, so to speak, was the Mind Eye Clinic in Northbrook, Illinois, near Chicago. And I met Dr. Deborah Zielinski there, who is one of the most amazing women. And they use a form of visual and audio stimulation to help rewire the brain, and do repairs from like TBI, strokes. They work with PTSD, a whole range of situations. And it's a pretty incredible cutting edge process that's, happened to be close enough for us that we did use this. And I do recommend them as an amazing resource. Another thing that we connected with was the Modus Nova. He did not have use of his right arm, and I do feel like that really did help a lot with building back his muscle strength and, getting some movement back in his arm. We did research the MyoPro, but had a big fight with insurance, and that was the end of that. Uh, but I will say, MyoPro actually went to court on Jamie's behalf and tried to get his insurance to cover. And so, I mean, I think the thing is that there are so many resources out there, but you're not always going to hear about these resources from going in to see the physicians in the clinics. Um, and sometimes you're getting messages that, well, this is the most you can expect to do, or this is as good as things are going to get. And that isn't always the case. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I feel like that is not at all the case. But it's really hard when, you're fighting against a body that doesn't want to cooperate with your brain, and then you're trying to find people that will help you to encourage that spirit of healing. And so, I mean, one thing I do want to share there is never quit asking, never quit pushing, and never quit looking, because there's amazing things out there. And what we do know more than anything, like I said, I've done a lot of studying in neurobiology as part of my training and working with trauma, and actually now completing a program on psychedelic assisted psychotherapies, where again, we're looking at how the brain can expand and how we can form new neural pathways. And every new pathway is a new way for the body and the brain to connect, and to be able to, gain back new abilities. Um, so there's a lot of, I believe, hope out there, and, not giving in to people's limitations is really important. If you know it inside of you, you'll do it. You'll find a way, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And yeah, it's tough. And I guess one of the other things, is with the holidays coming up, you're interacting with people who sometimes it's family or friends that, don't always know how to respond to people after they've had a stroke, after they had a life-changing event. And I know that was especially difficult, for us, was people dropping out of your life, or people kind of pulling back. And I know how difficult on the outside that was. I can't even imagine on the inside what that feels like. Um, but to be able to find people you can talk about this with that will hold that space. And even though everyone around in your circle may not be able to be present, that, there are going to be those that can, and really look to them and open up and talk about things because holding stuff in does not help, you know. And and it is tough because sometimes I think you get shot down or somebody doesn't know what to say, but I think you got good instincts when you've been through this kind of journey. You start reading people better and knowing, hey, this person feels safe. Maybe I can put this out there. So, yeah, be good to you. And I have such respect for the journey you're on because this is not for the faint of heart. You guys are the warriors. And, what I've seen amazes me and what people are capable of. And I feel like we were always blessed by a team of the most amazing providers when it came to physical therapists and occupational therapists and um, connecting with a lot of people that are in it for the right reason. And yeah, I guess that's kind of that's my spiel, but I'm open for questions or, you know, anything that's helpful for you.
I have a question that maybe you can start us off, Teresa.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you can speak to um, the balance that needs to be stricken, right? That needs where you know you have to work hard to rehabilitate,
Hmm.
and then you also like you talking about your personal situation, like Jamie came to the point where you had to respect his wishes
Right.
about didn't not wanting to continue therapy. Like how did you find that middle ground? Like I hope that this is kind of making sense. I'm trying to figure out how
Yeah,
to formulate
yeah.
the
I mean, I think
question.
everybody kind of has their own storyline, right? And I think for him, my sense was he was tired. And, we went at it hard. It was 3 days a week that I'd be taking him to therapies. Like, we'd be going to Chicago every 6 months. Um, and he's always been the skeptic. I'm the one that like I will see it and go, I can do that. I'll figure it out. I mean, I was in the middle of my doctoral thesis when Jamie had a stroke. I was actually in the middle of my doc program. And to be honest, I did have a pretty good reflection of what it's like to deal with basically kind of a brain injury experience, if you will, because I did experience a major burnout, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was a complete cognitive shutdown. And during the time I needed to write all of this lovely dissertation and all of these thesis papers, I couldn't put a sentence on the page. And for me, verbal linguistic is my thing. I could sit and write papers in my bachelor's and master's program and be like, okay, I'll think this up in my head, sit down and, 6 pages was knocked out in maybe an hour, hour and a half. And I couldn't put a sentence on. It wasn't there. Um, and I knew that at that time, it's kind of like when you're healing from any kind of brain experience, is that you got to really give yourself grace and compassion and that there are times that there is times for doing and there's times for not doing, right? There's times for saying, hey, my brain needs a break. I need to rest. I need to not be pushing it. Um, and that's important too. And kind of listening to that inner sense of your being and saying, hey, is this time for rest? Is this time to just step back for a minute and just let things kind of heal organically. And I'll be honest, during that time, I didn't have a lot of choice. It was not there. It was the most frustrating experience I can ever imagine of, all of these abilities that I once had naturally were just not accessible. And to this day, I will admit I don't write like I used to. I've done a lot of my own healing work, But you do, and there are times that you need to figure out where to write your journey. And if your goal is something, then reach to that goal. But if it's somebody else's goal, then you have to reconcile that there might be a difference, and both parties might have to concede a little bit. Does that kind of answer your question, Ella?
Does anybody else have a thought, question, comment, anything that you want to say?
I think something comes to my mind, and we're entering a season of year where a lot is going on in families' lives and personal lives. And I struggle myself. I'm bringing to a close my second year of recovery from stroke. I had a brain bleed, and I came from being not able to speak, not able even to feed myself, to a point where I can express myself fairly well. I'm pretty good with my motor ability in that. But when I go into social settings, which Christmas is going to bring up a lot, especially the family, there's a lot of expectations there. And particularly people who are not really familiar with the journey struggle of stroke, you know, I feel sometimes I don't know if I'm able to meet the demands that are there or the expectations that are there. And I just try to come to the conclusion, well, I live each day at a time. And this Christmas, I'm just going to try to meet the social settings and the family the best I can with what I got and give it my best shot. If it works, good. If it doesn't, not. Well, that's who I am. And I'm more and more as I go into this stroke journey, it's the to be comfortable with myself, who I am, and the journey that I'm on. It's not the total sum because healing is ongoing, but it represents what I've been able to do thus far. And I don't know, I'm entering the holidays with kind of a sense of joy. The music is there, the decorations are there. But for myself in my interior, because of brain damage and that, something is just not coming together. I'm dizzy a lot. Um, I'm on a lot of medications. I'm dizzy, and some of that is medications. And I'm just trying to get the energy to just to do my best this season with all the social settings. And if I can't make it, well, I'm going to be honest to say I couldn't make it this evening. But I'm trying to accept myself, who I am, where I am, so the healing can continue, if you will. And it's a process. And as I come into this recovery, I'm trying to become more comfortable with the process. It takes time. It takes one day at a time. And I can't think ahead, but I'm trying to get the best today. I guess that's why my grade, I mentioned I'm a 7. I just don't, the demands are there. There's a lot of and I don't know if I'm capable to meet them all, but I'm trying my best. And that's all I could say. I'm trying my best.
Well, first, your speech is amazing, and I would never have known you had a brain bleed or a stroke, and your ability of articulating yourself is incredible. So that's, pretty outstanding. And I do agree 100% with you. I think coming off of the PTSD situation, I have realized, and trust me, being a clinician, kind of realizing you have that diagnosis is not a fun thing to do. I tried denial for a very long time, and it just kind of kicked me in the butt. But I've also learned the same thing. There are times that my nervous system does not allow me to do certain things that I used to do, and pushing is one of them. And I think I've done a lot of more self-reflective pieces of things of saying, what is so bad about slowing down? And whose expectation is really worth putting yourself out there for that you're going to end up stressed? Because really the people that truly care about you are the people that want the best for you, you know? And I think I've realized myself that I fell into that trap a lot of trying to compensate for what it felt like I lost by overdoing, or doing it a little better or trying to do it perfect. And I think this year at Thanksgiving, I was sharing with my sister, I'd recently done a ketamine journey as part of a therapeutic process. And it was a very amazing and powerful experience. And coming on the just weeks after that, into Thanksgiving, it was like, why am I trying to do things to impress people? Why aren't I not just doing things to show people how I feel about them by putting my energy and spirit into what I'm doing, whether it's preparing the food for the meal or preparing something in the house, that it's not about impressing anyone or meeting an expectation, but just doing things with love, doing things to generate a feeling of connection. And really just everything being about connection. And I don't know if that helps any, but I think sometimes when these things happen, they do remind us, just slow down. Maybe we've been rushing through life a little too much. Maybe we put our priorities in the wrong places. Maybe it isn't about being the human doing, it's about learning to be the human being again.
I agree, Teresa. I thank you.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think, just that gratitude, right? Not the false stuff that people go, well, you should be grateful. It's the gratitude of saying each day, I have this opportunity for today. I have this 24 hours. I have this 1 hour ahead of me. Life is short. How do I want to spend it? So yeah, I really embrace that the things about the season that are meaningful, and let go of the stuff that creates stress, because it doesn't need to have a place. We are conditioned into that. That's just part of what we kind of brought into our own, habits and patterns. And we can choose to just let them go. We'll pick them up again because that's what we do. And then we can put them back down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Claudio, you have your hand up.
So, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you, Teresa. I found you to be very helpful. But one thing I want to, I guess, talk about or comment about is the writing part, because I found it part of, I guess the best way to say is emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that writing about experiences and reflecting helped me to kind of deal with it and maybe move forward in my thinking. And one thing I did experience, which I found another person found it very helpful, was writing something down so that I would have to reread it again after.
I like that. I'm terrible
So,
at that.
well, this is the whole thing, because I wasn't just venting, I was writing it to reread it after.
Mm-hmm.
So it became a whole thing where not only did I think about what I was writing, but how I was writing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it just worked for me or whatever the case might be, but when I started doing that, I had a little bit of trouble regulating my emotions. And when I reflected back on what I was writing, it all kind of made sense. And
Yeah.
touching on what your husband had to deal with, which I'm sure was a lot.
Hmm.
Um, the sense of loneliness is incredible. So the fact you took your time to decorate his surroundings and liven things up a little bit maybe helped him feel less alone. Like he wasn't going through it by himself.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that with you and maybe get your feedback because I think you have dealt with stroke patients in similar situations before and see if that would maybe what your experiences with that.
My experiences with working with stroke patients before this happened.
And writing and reflecting and
Oh, right.
emotional
You
regulation,
know,
all that fun stuff.
well, you're calling me out, Claudio. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a
Oh no,
therapist that will
I'm not
suggest
trying to call you.
journaling.
I'm trying to help.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I do suggest journaling, and I think journaling is a great tool, and I have a terrible time doing it. I think that at one point when I was a kid, somebody found my diary and read it, and it left me with this, like, honest to God fear factor, that I work with my own a little emotional block there. But I do agree with you because I have started to do more writing, especially as I'm doing the psychedelic therapy experience, because there's some pretty profound experiences you go through. And if you capture it, like you said, in the moment when that emotion, you may not be cognitive of what's happening with it,
Yeah,
but once you write it down on paper and you go back and reflect on it, you go, whoa, that was me. I kind of get this now. It makes sense, right? So I do think that you have motivated me. I actually did buy this is pretty bad. This was my not so therapeutic little joke, but I did buy myself this grievance journal
Oh,
to
yeah,
motivate myself because I like to keep, a sense of humor on things. But no, I love that and I love what you shared because I think that I did
yeah.
write some of the experience down when I was experiencing it in the initial stages of responding.
Keep in mind you have to read it again after. So
Yeah,
don't kind of just write it down and you can read what you wrote after.
yeah,
That won't help as much.
good advice. So are you a therapist?
No,
I
I've just been reflecting a lot.
Well, you could be one. You're very good.
I
I'd rather be a writer, actually.
yeah, Claudio, you've written your book now, right?
I'm going through the editing right now.
Cool. Very cool.
That's awesome. So you have a
Yeah,
book you're gonna
It's
publish?
gonna come out in the spring or maybe summer. It's with the
cool.
publisher right now.
Well,
Cool.
I will keep an eye out for it because I would love to get it.
Yeah, and I
It'll be available online. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we'll definitely share it with the troops once it's available. I
I would
just want to
appreciate that.
yeah, obviously, of course. I just want to share one thing about reading and reflecting. Ella suggested, like, oh, many moons ago, she had a 1 line a day 5 year journal, and I bought one. So I got it. I got one for my mom, and it's so easy because, like, I too like I know I should write in my journal. I know I should write and reflect, and I have such a hard time sometimes, but because this is just one sentence, or like there's a little bit of space, so there's like you can probably put 2 or 3 sentences, but it's just like such a little bit, and you just put 2025 and then the next year you put 2026. It's an achievable task. So I've been really consistent since for a couple months now.
Love
So
that
I'm
idea.
excited about that. Like,
I
it's
think I
just like,
do think I have to commit to writing a book just to sit down and journal. I think
yes,
it's really that's an
yeah.
awesome idea.
And like the one line, like you can go back like the next year when you're writing your next line, you can read what you wrote the year before and reflect on how far you've come or how far you haven't come. Or I'm really getting into this, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that, Julie.
Yay!
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm beaming. I preach this one line a day, 5-year journal to everybody that I meet. It is truly the gift that keeps on giving. And talking about rereading what we write, like I found in the past, you really have to motivate yourself to flip back and like read your entries from the past. It never mind like actually motivating yourself to write them. But when you have 5 years on one page, every time you flip, you see, and like for me, it's been amazing to see how much can change in a year. And sometimes I'm at a really low point and I open my journal and I see that, oh my gosh, last year I was having a great day. So much can change in 12 months. So much can change in 6 months. So I highly, highly recommend picking up that journal. It's like $25 Canadian on Amazon. You can get it for
For like
Christmas,
$5
stocking stuffer.
American.
I'd be buying several of those as Christmas gifts. I love
Yeah.
that idea.
Yeah. It's
And one for myself.
I'm gonna put in the chat.
That's
I
uh
have something to not ask, but to talk about. When I had 3 strokes, and when I had the first one, I really couldn't speak at all. I couldn't like put together a sentence without saying the word pineapple. It was kind of embarrassing, and and I didn't want to talk about pineapples. It just kind of came out of my mouth. And then I got better slowly. I could learn. I was learning how to walk. Learn like now I'm fine. I can walk. I can talk. Throughout my them putting my what's it called? Tap my anyway, the top of my head back on because they had to take it off to alleviate some pressure on my brain. Um, when I had that put back on, my hands began to work properly. I could play the guitar again, um, and everything seemed to change since then. Um, but now with this concert coming up, I'm playing a concert on the 14th with my sister, and I'm not doubtful at what I can accomplish, but I'm doubtful like is it going to feel the same? Is it going to be the same? Because I've done that for years before, uh, and I don't know. I guess it's just a thinking process. I've been through a lot, so I feel like very like a lot of responsibility has to be put out for this to be good. But at the same time, I am fine, fine if it doesn't work out the way I planned it, the way I'd seen it. Um, just to be there on stage and say like I'm going to do this no matter what. Um, I think it says something, but I don't really know how it's going to go. So I'm extremely thankful as to where I am right now, because I rarely see it actually. I rarely see people go through stuff like this, and even guys like your husband, reaching a certain point and then having to stop. And there's all kinds of people in all kinds of groups like this who they almost don't have the ability to choose whether to grow or not. They're just kind of stuck there. That's the way that their stroke taught them how to live, and that's the way they are, And I feel like a little bit of guilt when it comes to progressing so much. And yeah, I don't know what I'm saying, but
Don't
like
ever feel
I,
guilt for that because what you've done is amazing. But you've done the work. That was
yeah,
because you made the choice.
that's the other thing actually is like my wife is like a shut up and do it person. Like, don't just sit there, do this, do that. And I kind of took that as like I hitched on to that attitude. And anybody that was like, oh, did you want to do some speech classes to work on your aphasia? Do you want to take, um, go to a physical to get your physical body back in shape and this and that? All of these things, like I've never said no to anything. And that's why, I don't know. I still have this worry in the back of my mind that things are not gonna work out the way I want because I'm very much a like a sky's the limit kind of person. Like anything can happen, like we can
No
do it.
limit. It's only
Um,
the ones you set.
yeah,
I honestly believe that. No limits, only what you choose to set for yourself.
yeah. So yeah, I just
I think you need to
I don't
watch
know.
Mr. Holland's Opus as you prepare for your concert.
That would be a good one.
I
I
just
don't think I have
recently
seen it.
watched it and I was just like, it twice it's come up, once in therapy and now it popped as you were talking because it was like there's such an amazing piece in there when he connects with this girl and says, just have fun, just feel the music,
Mm, mm,
enjoy it, and it's like, I think that's, again, that captures that essence of get out of this part of the head that's always thinking and analyzing and talking too much and be in the the being mode of letting things happen organically and
right,
not overthinking it because again there's that always that, well, now I'm kind of, am I this token, do I have to perform a little higher now
right.
because of people's expectations or
That's
what's,
true.
and I just that this whole kind of concept of learning to be authentic in our experience, whatever our story
Yeah,
is, if for me, yeah, I was like your wife. I was like, come on, let's do this. Let's get you in water therapy. He hated every minute of it. I could tell on his face.
I hated so much of what I did, but like I had no other choice but to continue on for me and for her and for everybody else that was caring and viewing my life. I especially because I was really young too. I was
Yeah,
46 at the time. I'm
yeah.
47 now, and like I don't know. I thought that was just the only option was to keep going and keep doing it.
That's how
But
my
like I
brain
said,
works too. So it was hard to step back and say, I'm going to concede. I was exhausted and my blood pressure was running
yeah,
at a very critical stage. And I'm like, okay, caregiver burnout is getting very close here. And
yeah,
maybe that was part of his giving up too, was knowing that, you know, the whole dynamic was just not working.
yeah. My wife is in caregiver sessions, like where all the caregivers talk to each other and try to like work each other up and build each other's spirits up. And I think that's an incredible thing that
Yeah.
anybody can do. That they even exist is like incredible to me. Because
Yeah.
I had my own things, but then she had her things while it was happening. So like
Yeah.
each person that is involved clearly with strokes, like they have something to be worked on, whether it's the victim, so to speak, of the stroke
Hmm.
itself, or the loved one that was trying to, fix the problem in the first place.
Yeah. That's
It's a
it.
lot.
It's like it always feels like there should be something more you should be doing, right?
Yeah,
It's and there in the end of things, you can't crawl inside and know how frustrating it must be for the person you love to be going through what they're going through. So you're almost trying to take on things yourself
yeah,
to be in that space of empathy, and it's a messed up deal. And getting
yeah,
in support groups is really smart. I mean, it's a
definitely.
and my husband's hit actually right at the beginning of COVID. So
Oh,
Oh yeah,
it's so
we
hard.
were into lockdown like immediately afterwards. And yeah. But hey, I guess everything that you go through reminds you the resilience you do have
yeah.
and, how you'll meet the next challenge.
Yeah, like I said, I felt really, well, I still feel really bad about the people who can't get past where they are, um, but can't really live in that. I can see it, and you know, like tell them about my story and stuff, but I can't. Strokes are different for every person. So like
Right.
every type of the brain has a different kind of stroke going on or a different part of the brain, whatever. But yeah, sometimes it's just hard to continue going when, I don't know, when other people are going through the same thing and not progressing the way I did. Or even if it was reverse, even if I was in a wheelchair and not being able to speak right now, and I saw one of these people speak in this group doing what I'm doing, I would feel not jealous, but feel like a little, unbalanced and stuff. So I really have feelings for that kind of person going through stuff like that. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Everybody has their path, right?
yeah,
And it's choose to put on yours what it is you want there.
thank you.
Yeah, Jay, just know that you have two fans that I'm just so impressed that you're even getting up on stage. Like I was a person that I used to perform. I can't
Yeah,
imagine getting up on stage, not a musician, but like a dancer and a singer. But I can imagine getting on stage after my stroke ever. So like you're already winning for both me and Ella. I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. Like you're already winning just standing up there.
yeah.
And
My wife did bring up a good point the other day because I was reading stuff about people with strokes, and they said that most people that have strokes are indeed depression. And I said, man, I've never been depressed. And she's like, that's great. He's like, but what if you couldn't play guitar like ever again? And I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
like I would have been depressed. And so like it's a matter of what the phrase means to you and what's the most valuable thing in your life. Like other than being married to her, that's the most valuable thing I have. It's like my second language. So if I couldn't do that anymore, I can understand how people can be depressed. So I'm pretty grateful myself. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in on make 2 points here. One, they're both related to you, Jay. So one, thank you for your share. I can remember your first few sessions that you joined here at Thrive After Stroke, and like Lindsay was with you, and like it was you were in the beginning stages of it, and then I think we did a summer break, and you came back speaking in full sentences and singing, and I was like, wow, like so proud of you, like so proud of you, so bravo, really from the bottom of my heart.
that's
Yes, I'm so excited to see you live and in person next Sunday.
pretty cool.
Um, and then the other point I wanted to say was thank you for, I felt like this relief, or I don't even know if relief's the right word, but when you brought up guilt, oh my gosh, that like I feel like I'm gonna get emotional talking about it because do I ever feel that all the time? Like, I think that's a part of why didn't talk about what happened to me for so long because it's like I'm doing so well. I don't deserve to
Yeah,
be here. Like I don't like there are people who are trying to do all the things I'm doing and they're still using a walker or wheelchair or
yeah,
they're not seeing the same results and yeah, it like every day sometimes it eats me up. And yeah, some like Julie and I have been running the support group for almost 5 years. And some days I'm like, do I even deserve to be in this group?
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I don't know if Teresa, you have anything
Term
to say
is
about
called
that.
survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm,
I've heard
Um,
about this. I've heard
I
about this.
yep, got very introduced to it working at the VA when I was interning there. Moral injury in the VA terms, which is when you've come back from a war zone and your friends didn't, or you came back in one
mm,
piece and your friends didn't, that you carry that burden. It again, I worked for 5 years for case management with 9/11 responders and survivors, and it was a constant theme of that. Why am I alive and they're not? All I can say is that, we each have our journey. And carrying guilt is like the biggest waste of energy there is. Okay. What you've done, Ella, is you've platformed what the gifts are you're given to help others. So that needs to be celebrated,
mm.
never felt guilty about, right? I mean, Jay's going to go on stage. He will inspire people to see that, you can fight your way back and live your passion. There's no place for guilt in that because what each one of you are doing and contributing is meaningful. And it contributes to this energy in this world that this world needs right now, which
Mm.
is hope, which is the knowing that you can get hit with really adverse crap and still come through it. And I mean, my experience, that's why when you invite me, I'm like, of course I will come because I don't feel like I have that much to really say that's meaningful because I've never been through what you've been through, but I can at least try to offer what the things I've gone through have taught me. Um, and that is, there are times you're going to feel like you're down. Be down. It's okay. Go down there for a while if you got to, as long as you come back up again, because we all do it. I mean, and the big thing is the tough emotions, they only last, 90 seconds if you don't invite them in and offer them coffee and give them a dang dessert. If you do, they're going to stick around for a while. And when you try to push them out the door, they push in that much more. So knowing that, we can hold space for feeling really hopeful and positive 1 minute and really exhausted and beaten down within 10 minutes later. And that can bounce back up again, and I've really learned to kind of notice within myself at the end of the day, I'm more fatigued and my thoughts are not my best friend. So don't hang out with them for a while. Find a distraction, find something inspiring to watch on television, play an instrument, do some writing, right? I also have become very diligent about sticking with like body scan or yoga nidra meditations. And I did try to get Jamie to do these after the stroke, and I got the eye roll thing because, I was the yogi, meditator, blah, blah, weirdo. And that didn't fit his construct. But I did try because yoga nidra or body scan meditations are just when you lay and listen to like a narrative that says, bring to awareness these various parts of your body. And I feel like for stroke, especially, where it's going to be frustrating because there's things that don't feel the same, you're also intentionally telling the brain to gain awareness of that part of the body that feels different and to be in that space of experiencing it. And the more that you do it, the more you are rebuilding these pathways. Because they did brain scan studies of monks who they brought in, and I think this was like through UW-Madison, hey, Wisconsin. But they had the monks do like these intensive meditation studies or experiences over a span of time. And they did MRIs before the study and after the study. And what they found was that the brains of these monks, who were already meditators, changed, that the prefrontal cortex actually became larger, that part of the brain that's the executive functioning, the amygdala, the flight emotional part of the brain actually became smaller. That the brain itself on an MRI scan changed in its structure. That to me was like the coolest thing because they did other follow-up or did studies also like of taxi drivers in Europe where there's these really big goat trails that they have to follow. And they found that there was this pairing that the hippocampal region of the brains of taxi drivers was much larger. So what we do changes the landscape of our brain. It changes our chemistry. And to me, that is so inspiring because it really means we can do whatever it is we choose to do, but we have to be willing to put forth repetition and commitment into the process, and our brain will follow suit over time. And as a clinical therapist and working with a lot of post-traumatic stress and hearing stories that people have been through, that yeah, you just go and you're alive and you're a good human being. I don't know how you did that, because it's so inspiring. But to be able to use some of this knowledge to help people say, no, your brain can heal. And using it on myself, going, okay, do your own work, right? Therapists, do your own work. Do the meditations, do get back into yoga, do things that are movement oriented. Notice thoughts. Stop the thoughts that are crap. Don't let them hang around. They're gonna come, but you don't have to invite them in for coffee. You know, just notice them at the door and wave them off. I've always been a big fan of Rumi, and one of my favorite poems of Rumi is The Guest House. And I always reference that poem because it's just kind of like, even if it's a crowd of sorrows coming to violently sweep your home of all of its furniture, invited in laughing, because maybe it's clearing you for some new delight. And that's always inspired me to remember that the things that happen in our life are often not happening to us, but happening as the platform for our transformation and to help us really connect to the authentic person that we're meant to be. And that's why I love working with people who have been through trauma and been through crappy experiences in life, is because I also know these are the people who have touched their authenticity and they're learning to lean into that experience and to generally genuinely connect with it and say, oh, this journey isn't something to mindlessly wander through, bumping into walls, maybe. There is some intentionality to put into this and really savor the experience, even when they're not our most pleasant.
Yeah, that's a very well said, Teresa. Thank you. Um, Tara, you have your hand up.
Ooh. Um, hey, like good luck next week. Um, just like I heard your sister on that music,
Oh, cool.
and like I commented, she's a beautiful voice. So, and you were in the background, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
voice. So definitely all the best next week.
Thank
Uh,
you.
but and definitely enjoyed listening to everything that was said tonight. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer of the call. But clearly, I guess this journey wants to challenge me very hard. My stroke was 4 years ago. I thought, and I've had maybe some TIAs since. 2 weeks ago, I had a seizure. So I think for me, I thought I was handling the journey. I was doing everything I could do to welcome every day of this journey in a positive light. But I feel a bit beat up. I feel a bit just kind of done with all of it. I don't know why I needed a seizure 4 years after the fact. I do understand it, but I'm just kind of done. I'm just done with, I've done everything right. I've done anything and everything that's been said on this call, on every call I join, on like, I volunteer at the hospital, I nap, I waited 3.5 years to get my license back, only to lose it again. So, like, I enjoy listening to everyone's story, everyone's journey, but like, I can't honestly be positive anymore. Like, I'm tired. I had an appointment today because I do get Botox for my everlasting headaches, because no medicine works. So, like, I have taken in everything that was said tonight and I totally appreciate it. Like, I did have PSTD. It was probably getting better, but now it's back because of the seizure. I have a eye that is still there. Like, it's just one thing after the other. And I'm done.
Yeah, it's all right to be real.
I'm done.
Quick question. I know this might be silly and wrong, but are you part of the music group or not? I do like a music group with
DJ,
DJ so and so. Yeah, I swear you were in that group last
Yeah,
week.
that's where I heard your sister.
Okay, okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I had a seizure a month ago. So I mean, it can happen to anybody, like it happened to you. And all I had to do was try to find some reason for it. And I was told by the doctors that it was like I had COVID and some of my medication was down, and that was the reason. But still, in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know if this is going to last forever, if I'm going to have a seizure next week, if it's going to be a week after. And I felt the same thing that you did. I was like really, really, really crushed, like really bummed out. And it was you that you can't take your sister to the school anymore because you don't have your license.
Yeah, my
Or
dog.
sister, daughter, your daughter. Yeah.
I mean, I
Okay.
just got my license back after 3.5 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's gone again for 6 months.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. I still haven't got mine. So we're gonna get we can struggle together. But yeah, I feel that your thing about the seizures because I just had one like probably not even a month ago. So
Um,
yeah, it's not good. But
they said mine was from my stroke 4 years ago.
Yeah,
yeah.
what I know of seizures, which is not a lot, is the scar tissue sometimes from your stroke, which can like be years and years ago. That's why I continue. It's been 8.5 years, and they continue to do ECGs or EEGs or whichever test for seizure just to make sure, because they're like scar tissue and your stroke was there was the damage is close to the top of my brain. So that's something that they said they're going to constantly have to like keep up with. That is the limit to what I know about seizures, but like I think it's not common, and it's also not uncommon. I don't think. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Like it
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
um, but just
It
because you
it
have a
does suck.
oh,
Like it sucks, Tara. I'm so sorry that fucking sucks. And
yeah,
I don't think us being like, well, flip it to the positive. Like I don't think that's gonna help. You know?
I'm normally very positive on
Hmm.
calls. I'm really one
And
of the ones
it's good to
that
be
Yes.
real,
Like
you know?
always be
you
positive.
yeah, you're even being positive about like saying all these things. It doesn't really matter. Like it's fine.
But I'm
Uh,
just tired.
yeah, I can imagine.
Just like my neurologist today is like, you just like enough is enough. Like it's just every time I see him, what's new? You know, like it's just like wow. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. You need a break. Like you need just a break.
Yeah.
Like the journey can be, and it's not like I'm gonna give up, but it's just like give me a window because normally I it's fine. Like I'm just hopping along and it's fine, and then it's not. I took a break from volunteering because I feel new stroke survivors don't need to see me when I'm like, oh, I'm really down right now, so there's no hope. But I'm not like that with them. I'm like, so there's so much to look forward to.
Oh.
Being real with the process, though. Not every day is going to be good.
No,
Some of them really suck.
they do.
And, it's okay to call a sucky day a sucky day. And if you feel like you need a break to step back from it, maybe you need a break to step back from it. Some days it is okay to say, hey, universe, I'm exhausted. I've had enough. And you
Felt
just,
it like this. I just wish I could have one day of not being a stroke survivor. I want to just go back to being pre-stroke.
can you bring into your memory what it was like to be like that?
I have no,
That's gone.
no. It's a whole different person. Although she was like high tense, so I'm not sure I would want her back. Like high stress, high tense, work,
Uh,
work, work. But just one day to not be 24/7 stroke survivor, headache, 24/7. Just I'm in a better spot since having strokes.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's a catch 22.
Well, sometimes I always call this the mini mental vacation, but this does have to do with the brain neurology too, when the neurons firing together is indulge yourself, create the image of exactly what that day would look like for you, and just be in that day and create how your day would be different and what it would feel like. Because it's going to suck either way. And yes, you'll come back from that to this reality. But for those moments that you could create in your mind, this experience of what it would be like, you can sometimes change up some wiring, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, I know I have chronic back problems I've had for 20 years now. And if I'm talking with a client and I talk about back problems, my back starts hurting worse. If I'm not thinking about it or I'm involved in doing something I enjoy, I don't notice the pain as much. But I can tell you one time I went in and they were going to try to do like cortisone shots on it, which was turned out to be the worst thing they could have done because of the instability. But the experience that hit me was before the shot, they numbed me. And for like this brief window in time, I had no back pain. It was gone. And I was like, oh my God. And then my second thought as a substance abuse counselor at that time was, this is how people get addicted to this crap. Because it was so amazing, And the pain it's back. It hums like this kind of little humming in, the back of my mind. But there are times I can kind of mentally take myself out of that for a few moments. And even those few moments are powerful. And they don't seem to make the reality suck any worse than it does when you have to come back to it because there was that break. Creating your perfect, even if it's a perfect 2 hours of the day or a perfect 10 minutes, mentally putting yourself there just for a little bit. I don't know if it hurt anything, but and if the motivation is not for that there for that, that's fine too.
No, that's actually very helpful.
I mean, I love to do like mini mental vacations, just closing my eyes, going back to Waikiki Beach.
That's what I was thinking of. I'm gonna do a body scan of going back to like the beach.
Yeah, and just I remember the image. I remember standing there in 2013. I was there for an ACA conference, and the kids, there was these little kids that had their, life vests on, and they would go out onto the sand and get sucked back into the ocean, and the wave would take them back onto the sand and suck them back, and they just sit there and giggle and laugh. And it was like, I remember just going, I'm going to create a snapshot of this in my brain, and I'm going to revisit this image every opportunity I have. And the really cool thing is with this whole neurobiology thing is when you put your brain in that state, when you really create some kind of state of bliss in the mind, the whole cellular construct changes in your body and you feel it because your brain controls your body. And it's like, so all the stuff that it's doing to frustrate you, you sometimes can harness and produce the opposite effect. And even if it doesn't last for a long time, I take 5 minutes of break and go, okay, that helped me reset. It kind of changed my cascading thought processes. And maybe I can, maybe I'm not ready to pick myself up off the floor. Maybe the floor is just where I want to be right now, and that's fine. But maybe I can grab a pillow and be a little more comfortable on the floor. Because it's like, it's not about feeling good all the time. Sometimes we just feel like crap because things are crappy. And I'd rather have somebody, Tara, call it out and say it what it is like you do and say, I'm just not in the space to put myself out there anymore and be in that space. And give yourself that grace, saying, you know what, I've just had enough for right now. I'm not giving up, but right now I also am not in a space to push or try. and that's okay.
Thanks, you.
Be in the in-between while you need to be there. Get the hell out when you can.
That's a good analogy. I needed to hear that.
Good.